Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to a brand new episode of Mental Health Matters. This week, we will be continuing this whole topic about communication, but we will be looking at communicating with empathy. And let's get right into it. So, I think that empathy is something that is widely misunderstood. Whenever you throw the word empathy out there, I think people don't really understand what it is. As a matter of fact, there is a misconception about what empathy is, and I'm here to address that because we are beings that communicate. Like I've said it before, the human being experience is all about communication, whether it's verbal or nonverbal. You communicate with yourself, you communicate with the environment around you, you connect with people, you connect with everything that you want to connect with. And a better way to understand your own mental health is through communication. We look at how you communicate with yourself, what has been communicated to you in your experiences, and how you are taking all of that and communicating with other people or aspects around you, different things around you. So this is why it's very, very important as the basics really of understanding your own mental health. So I think that empathy has been widely misunderstood. And when we think about empathy, as people, we think feeling sorry. You are feeling sorry about a situation, or you're feeling sorry about somebody else. In my language, and if you look at that and you directly translate that, right, it's like you are feeling sorry for someone else, or you're feeling sorry about something, but that is not empathy. Because when you feel sorry for someone else, you're feeling sorry for someone else. That's just how it is. It's not empathy. And based on my experiences, I've been in all sorts of disagreements. I've been misunderstood. I've been in, all sorts of, we all have been in situations where you're trying to get your point across, you're trying to express yourself, and then obviously you get misunderstood. Obviously, there's some sort of backlash and so on. And in all my experience, well, most, not all, but most of my experiences, especially the most important things that I've discussed before, in the most important situations or misunderstandings that I've had before, I've thrown around this word. I've thrown empathy around, and well, I've thrown it back to the person, and it was not received in the best way. In fact, it was a triggering point for most people. And I really love to reflect. This is why I think that it's so important to get into the habit of reflecting. At the end of the day, think about all the things that you went through, or all the important conversations that you had, whatever highlights. Obviously, we can't think about every little detail, but just have a run through, because it brings so much clarity. It makes you a better person. It gives you so much light, so much insight about where you are, where other people are, what's going on, really. And that's what I did, right? After all those experiences, I would just be like, okay, let's see. Okay, you threw out that word and you put it out there to this person, the word empathy. And what I would say is, whatever you're saying to me is not empathetic, or something like, I don't think you are showing any empathy in this moment. I don't think you're showing me any empathy in this moment. Or I don't think you're saying that with empathy. Or your words don't have empathy. And that would obviously feel like an attack to most people, and it would just blow up and blow over as a whole thing. So, because of the ways in which I reflect, well, the fact that I've got into the habit of reflecting, about my experiences and my conversations, I actually realized that, hey, everything was going well until you threw out that word, until you used that word. So what is the problem? And of course, I've had other conversations on the side about empathy, and I've realized that we don't know, or at least what has been put out there about empathy is not empathy. Because when we talk about empathy, people think feeling sorry for yourself, feeling sorry for someone else, or putting yourself in someone else's shoes. I've also heard about that's a very common one as well when it comes to empathy, putting yourself in someone else's shoes. But the bottom line is you can't do that. How are you going to be able to put yourself in someone else's shoes if you really think about it? At the end of the day, you are not going to be able to feel exactly what someone else is feeling. At the end of the day, you are not going to be in someone else's experience, no matter what. No, listen, even if it's your friend, even if it's someone very close to you and you are supportive, and you are not going to be able to feel that. You are not going to live someone else's experience. And so I couldn't also understand why did people get so upset. But I think that looking back, they thought I meant, listen, you need to feel what I'm feeling. You need to get into my experience. You need to know exactly what I went through, what I'm going through. And that's not the point. How are we going to be able to? It's impossible to do that. If you had to do that, really, that would be very detrimental to you. That would be dangerous. That would be a health hazard. That really, nobody can do that. But what we need to try and understand is that empathy is exactly what I just said. Understanding. You are understanding, you are listening, and you are understanding where someone else is coming from. You are understanding why in that moment they are saying what they're saying. Why are they feeling what they're feeling? Why they felt what they felt? Why they are going through what they're going through, based on what? Based on whatever information they're relating, they're giving you. Empathy, before we get to the fact that you're feeling something about someone, and you're feeling something about something that's happening, it's a logical thing. I'm just going to put it like that. It's a thought process. You think about it. Empathy, you think, and then after thinking, that's when you can feel something. For some people, yeah, they would feel sorry for someone. For some people, they would feel bad. I don't know. Some people would feel however way they want to feel. But empathy is a thought process. Empathy is you being able to take the information that you have received from someone else and processing it and understanding, oh, this is why this person is reacting this way. This is why this person is saying what they say. Or this is why this person did this. You are logically going through the process of understanding the situation, understanding what's going on. And then we get to the emotional side where you feel something about it. And it's different for different people. I mean, I did say in the previous episode that feelings are not right or wrong. What you feel at that point is what you feel, and nobody can ever dictate that for you. So that's the part that we need to understand, that it's not feeling. How can you possibly feel sorry for someone else? And this is why today we have the concept and the idea of codependency. When we talk about codependency, I think what we are really looking into is exactly that. When you are forcing yourself to feel sorry for someone else, when you are literally forcing yourself to be in someone else's shoes, which is impossible, and you are putting yourself in the back burner, you are putting yourself as number last, as the last person, so that is impossible. And we will look into codependency as well in the future. But we need to really understand that empathy is a logical process more than an emotional thing. So now this brings me into the communication aspect of it. First of all, I think that it's best to realize and to know and to acknowledge the fact that we all have different personalities. People communicate differently. People talk using a different, vocabulary, a different way of our expressions are not the same, and this is influenced by so many things. That form a part of your identity and who you are. Some people would come across as very direct, some people are indirect, some people are more passive, some people have a harsher tone, some people have this and that. And all of those are definitions that we have in society. Like I said before, that in society we have so many labels and this and that. This is, direct, this is too indirect, and all of that. We are different, and there are different things that shape who we are. Definitely, we need to acknowledge that. But communication, being communication, is a very neutral thing. Communication is communication. You can't adjust it, you can't redefine it, you can't do it. Communication is communication. And when we talk about communicating with empathy, what we are saying, I'm not here to say that you should be communicating with understanding towards other people or whatever, whoever and whatever. And that's not what I'm saying. But what I'm trying to do is help us realize that communicating with empathy, or the ability to communicate with empathy, or the inability to communicate with empathy, is a direct reflection of how you communicate with yourself, is a direct reflection of whether you are empathetic towards yourself or not. It's a reflection of whether you understand yourself or not. And that's it. For me, the minute when I'm in a situation where I'm communicating with people, their communication, how they communicate with me, it says a lot about them. It has nothing to do with me, whether or not we are in agreement or disagreement. It has nothing to do with me. I'm just like, oh, that's on her or that's on him. It has nothing to do with me. So also, I think that one of the biggest misconceptions around empathy is the fact that you have to automatically agree with people. No, we are not here to be in agreement. Yes, we are in agreement. We can be in agreement regarding other things, but we don't have to agree all the time. We are different. We are different people. We are shaped differently. We have different ideas and so on. And it's not about an agreement or disagreement thing. It's just a reflection of how you communicate with yourself. It shows you, it gives you an idea of whether you understand. Do you have an understanding of yourself? Do you have an understanding of what you were saying in that moment? Whatever it is that you were discussing, whatever it is that you were talking about, do you really understand how that relates to you? Were you trying to gain understanding, or do you understand? What is it? Are you curious? Do you want to implement that? Is that part missing in your life? There are so many things, but how you communicate, it's a direct reflection of how much empathy you have about yourself. Do you have an understanding? Are you taking the time out to really understand who you are? Are you taking the time out to really understand your thought processes, the things that you think about most of the time? Each and every one of us have a pattern, right? Patterns and ways of thinking, but there's always an underlying theme. You find that in a day, or in days, or in weeks, there's always that one thing that you're constantly thinking about, that one thing that you're constantly thinking about. And yes, if it becomes detrimental, if it becomes harmful or negative, then we can say you are worrying about something. But if you really think about it, it's not necessarily worrying, but it's something that you need to deal with. It's something that is off balance that you need to deal with. It's something that is screaming and shouting for your attention. You need to attend to that one thought that you always have, that you constantly just thinking about it. You wake up, it's there. You go through your day, it's there, and so on. So when you have the inability to communicate with empathy. It shows that there are a lot of things that you haven't really taken the time to understand about yourself. And then how can you communicate with empathy to the next person? How can you begin to understand someone else if you don't truly have an understanding of what you are saying most of the time or what you are thinking most of the time? And, we also just really need to realize that sometimes, if not most of the time, it's not about going in and, isolating yourself and doing the inner work. Yes, this is what I'm promoting. I'm here to promote doing the inner work. Your mental health is an inner system, it's internal, right? But the truth of the matter is everything around you, your conversations, whatever it is that's external, your conversations, how you communicate, what you do with who, how, when, it's a reflection. You don't need to go far. You don't need to dig deep. If you don't know where to start about this whole mental health thing, if you don't know about where to start about taking care of yourself, your well-being, your mind, your feeling. If you don't know where to start about this whole thing, just have a look at everything around you. Just have a look at all the information that you're absorbing, how you're interacting with it, what consumes your mind, what is it that you're constantly thinking about. Take a look at that, and you will have an idea as to where you stand, and you will know exactly what is it that lacks in you. You will know exactly how you are not showing yourself empathy, how you are not taking the time to implement empathy in your own communication, your self-talk, how you talk to yourself inside. Of course, we cannot hear, right, the conversations that other people have about themselves inside. That's definitely an internal thing. But if you just take the time out to look at that, then it will give you an indication of whether you're communicating from an empathetic place or not. A lot of people who don't necessarily communicate with empathy will do the following things. Some people will blame you. Some people will feel the need to defend themselves. Whenever you point out your opinion and you give your view about how you feel or what you think, you'll find that a person will get super and ultra defensive. You'll find that a person will feel the need to manipulate the situation and turn things around or make you seem in a certain light, make you seem a different kind. There's so many games that we play as people whenever we cannot communicate or we have the inability to communicate with empathy within ourselves. When someone is not taking care of themselves and their well-being, it is definitely going to be visible in how they communicate with others. And that includes everything. That includes tone, that includes the vocabulary that they use, and that includes how you feel. As much as I said, your feelings are not right or wrong, but how you feel is an indication of what is really going on, and it can tell you a lot about your own communication and another person's communication. So I know that it's quite a lot to digest, and really I think we need to begin looking at things from a very simple point of view. Whenever we talk about mental health, we need to regard things from the simplest, smallest ways. As I said, looking at how you communicate with yourself, how you communicate with other people, ways in which you haven't shown yourself some empathy, ways in which you don't understand parts of yourselves, and the moments where you've actually felt like you understood yourself and you were able to understand another person. So all of that will give you an indication of where you are, because it's all about understanding before we feel, before we process any kind of emotion, and before we even begin to look at other parts of our mental health and start digging deep and taking care of that mess and working through all of that. We need to look at. So that's it. I hope that we can slowly but surely digest all of this and try our best to really understand, take the time out to understand your own thoughts and whatever it is that you want to communicate and express before you even invest in understanding others. So thank you so much. I hope that you are all well. Continue to take care of yourself, and I will definitely see you next time.